Hello, and welcome back to Bill's Ramblings, to another video. Today, I want to go back to when I was 5 years old. We're going to go back to Maryvale, first grade in Maryvale grade school. And, I mentioned before that we used to walk to school and we carried our own lunch in a paper sack, and we did. I did, at least. And I remember that school for me was a pleasurable time. I enjoyed school. I wasn't very good at it. I barely made it through and I barely graduated. Got myself in a lot of trouble and had a lot of difficulties for different reasons. But anyway, we used to walk to school, and the day would start out with, in the winter, even in Phoenix, I remember running and sliding on the frost on the grass, and how much fun that was to run and slide on the frost on the grass. And anyway, so we get to school, walk across the playground, and go into our homeroom. And every single morning, I remember this as a first grader, every morning we had a prayer. We would, with the teacher and the whole class, and we would pray before the class, and then after the prayer, we would stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Every morning, every single morning that I can remember. Friday was special because on Friday, they would have big loudspeakers, and they would play a song over the loudspeakers to bring everybody to the flagpole that was out in the driveway, the circle drive. And every single class would meet out there on Friday mornings, whether it was cold or not cold. But anyway, we'd meet out there, and they'd play the national anthem, and we would then do the Pledge of Allegiance corporately as an entire school to be dismissed to go back to our class. So let me think. I wanted to say, I said I didn't do well in school, and I didn't. And I used to get in trouble. I used to get in trouble in school. My mind would wander. I would spend a lot of time looking out the windows. So my teacher would move me away from the windows and bring me up closer to the front of the class, I guess, so she could keep an eye on me. But I used to find myself staring out the windows and just wishing I could be outside, wishing I could be out there having a good time. And well, that wasn't the case. We had to stay in class. And so that's a beginning of how my day would start. And I wanted to move along and say that I became pretty well known in the principal's class. You ended up in the principal's office if you couldn't behave in class. And I remember my teacher, after a couple warnings and after a couple, you better pay attention, and then she'd stick me in the corner, and I had to sit in the corner or stand in the corner for a while. And then if I still didn't behave, then it was off to the principal's office. Now, the principal we had at the time was Mr. Dunda. Now, I remember him to be a very big, a very mean-looking, scary individual. But that's probably because I kept getting spankings from him, swats. And going to that principal's office was a scary thing. The teacher would say, "Billy, you need to go see the principal and you need to give him this note." So I would walk across the campus and to the principal's office and knock on the door and say that I needed to give the principal a note. And he'd sit there and he'd read the note, and he'd have a little conversation with me, and he'd say, "Billy, now do you know what it is that you've done wrong?" And I'm sure that my knees were wobbly and buckling, and it was all I could do to get the words out. And after all that was done, and he was pretty sure that I understood what it was I had done wrong, and he'd say, "All right, Billy, so that particular offense is going to get you 3 swats." And then I really started getting scared. Well, see, Mr. Dunda, he was gifted with an entire credenza full of wooden paddles. Those 8th graders in that school, they used to like to go to wood class and carpentry class and all that, and they liked to make fancy paddles just to give to the principal so that he could open up his credenza, and you could stare into that thing, and there must have been 20 or 30 different kinds of paddles, big ones, fat ones, skinny ones, thick ones, ones with holes, ones without holes, ones with big handles. And I can think that the eighth graders used to get a big kick out of that. Hey, let's give Mr. Dunda some more paddles. Well, I'd look in there and try to find the paddle that was the least offensive or that I thought would do less to my backside and hand it to him, and he may or may not accept that one as the one he wanted to discipline me with. And so then after that, it was, okay, Billy, bend over and grab your ankles, and I'd get my 3 swats. And quite often, not always, but quite often after that, I got to stand out in the breezeway. And the breezeway was a big opening where most of the kids came and went through school. And I got to stand out there at lunch. And everybody'd go by and they'd say, oh, look, Billy's been at the principal's office again. I wonder what he did. Or they'd say, well, I know what Billy did because that's who he is. And, you know, it was quite a humbling thing to go through. And you'd think that I would have learned my lesson and I wouldn't be in there ever again. But, you know, I spent all my grade school, most of my grade school at that school. And I remember getting in trouble pretty much most of the time. Now, I don't look back on that time and think, oh, man, they were wrong. They should have never done that. They should have never swatted me. They should have never stuck me in the corner. They should have never stuck me in the breezeway. I never do that. I think that children need to be disciplined, and I think that it takes more than just it takes a lot more than just being disciplined at home. It takes the teacher, it takes the principal, it takes the neighbors, it takes whoever it is that you're at the grocery store or wherever. It takes people saying, you just can't behave that way. That's just not acceptable, and you need to come in line and do what it is you need to do. And so I don't look back on any of those things and think, wow, you just were wrong. I look back on them and I think, you know, I needed to learn discipline. I needed to learn to fit in with society and to do what was right, even if I didn't want to. And so that's what I did have in grade school. Grade school was a good time. At recess, we'd go out at recess and we'd play kickball and we'd play dodgeball, and there was tetherball poles out there, and there were monkey bars, steel monkey bars, and metal slides that we would play on, and we just had a good time. One of my fondest memories is every single morning, it didn't ever fail, but you could walk past the cafeteria or you could walk down the hallway going to your class or whatever, and you could smell the fresh baked bread. Every day they made some kind of bread, rolls or something, and man, did they smell good. I remember thinking, oh, how good those rolls smelled, and they just made you just long to go to lunch to get a hot roll. And sometimes I'd eat lunch there, and sometimes I'd have a lunch that I took with me. But that was such a good memory for me to smell that lunch being cooked there every day, and the staff that would work in that kitchen every day and prepare the meals for us. And they were all good meals, and we ate a really good lunch when we ate there. And so that's a good memory for me. Going out at recess and playing with all the other kids, that's also a good memory. That probably, I enjoyed recess a whole lot more than I did attending the classes, you know. Again, I couldn't really focus in the classroom, and so I tended to wander in my mind and things like that. It still plagues me today. I still wander a lot in my mind. I still want to be outside. I can be in the house and I can look outside if it's cold or wet or snowing, and I can think, boy, If only I could get outside. Just get out there and do something. As long as it's outside, I'll be happy. And so I'd like to go ahead and end this video today. And just thanks for coming along with me in a little memory. And look forward to another one tomorrow. All right. Bye now.